Well, thanks so much for joining us. I'm Marlon Bowling with you, your tour guide to the ag commodities, and happy Friday to you. My goodness, we have made it to the end of a very adventurous week, and we still have one day to put on the books here yet. I want to bring on board Mr. Brian Hoops, president of Midwest Market Solutions, and discuss what we have gone through and experienced over this past week here. It has been quite a ride here, Brian. Of course, we've got the Pro Farmer Crop Tour going on. We've got deals going on in China. We've got deals going on with the economy, weather changes, you name it. Now, the Pro Farmer Crop Tour, everybody's analyzing the numbers, trying to see just what it means for the overall yield. And yeah, it has got a lot of attention lately. I want to bring up something to present the case for the farmers in the Western Corn Belt that really have not gotten a voice in this whole thing. Everybody's fretting over, oh goodness, we may not make the national average that was expected. We may trim off a few bushels here and there. Well, let me show you a couple of pictures. This was sent in to me by Brad Keeler. He's with Anspacher Futures of Kansas, and he's based in Salina, but he was traveling around the Garden City area. If you can see on the screen, if you're viewing at home, he sent a picture of a field of corn. Yes, that's a field of corn. You may not be able to tell it, but it's dead. It's gone. It got like about 3 feet tall, and it's just, there's nothing there. As far as you can see, dead corn, zero. Now, he took a picture across the road, and this is milo, which is drought tolerant, or we call it milo, grain sorghum. If you take a closer look at that, I wish we could zoom in on that, but you see a little bit of green on the plants around the edge of the field, but the field is basically all dead. And he said in the comments when he sent this goes for thousands and thousands of acres like that in the western part of the plains, and you don't hear anybody talking about it. Now, while we may trim a few bushels off in the heart of the Corn Belt, you go from southwest Nebraska all the way to Texas, and you see conditions like this. And Brian, my question to you is, does the trade even comprehend how much we have lost in the western part that doesn't get any media coverage?
Well, good morning, Marlon. The Pro Farmer Tour is getting a lot of attention, and trade has, been focused on it very closely. Just a comment about that tour is historically they've been a little bit shy as far as bushels go compared to what the USDA comes out with. So historically, they're almost always under what the USDA says. But they take just the sampling areas and they do a great job, but it doesn't go out into areas like down here in Missouri. It doesn't go into Kansas, gets parts of Nebraska, and parts of Iowa, of course, in the Eastern Belt, same thing. So there is a lot of areas that are not touched by this tour and not touched by the trade. We've been talking on your program here for weeks, seemingly, about cutting silage in places like Joplin, Missouri, and farther north. They're cutting silage for the corn crop just because there's trying to salvage something out of this crop because of the drought that's been going on. I would estimate at least 500,000 acres are going to be lost or not harvested to corn. It's going to be moved into silage, and there may be more than that even. It's hard to determine at this point in time, but it's really not being talked about by the trade. We brought it up, but it's starting to be recognized, I think, by this crop tour that there is some really bad areas out there. Just the market maybe doesn't focus on that. It's still trying to focus on how much crop is going to make up for that shortfall in good areas of Iowa and Minnesota and parts of Illinois.
Yeah, you're talking about a huge geographic area where you may not be trimming off 10% of the yield. You may be trimming off 100% of the yield this year. The trade may have a rude awakening when it's harvest time and say, where are all the bushels? We had an overnight export sale. I wanted to throw this in there, and it came from USDA this morning as a flash sale. It was a sale of soybeans to unknown destinations. If you can believe anything they say anymore, they retracted their export sales yesterday in the afternoon after the markets closed, saying, oops, we screwed up, and well, now what? But anyway, 146,000 tons sold to unknown destinations. supposedly overnight. Now let's look at the trade. We were a little firmer overnight, not much. Corn was up about 3 3/4 cents on the December contract this morning. Soybeans were pretty perky. We had November 12 higher at 14.43 1/4 in the wheat market. We had Chicago December, we'll go with that, 3 1/4 higher at 7.92 1/4. Remember, September futures expire today. Kansas City December down a penny and a quarter at 8.65. And in Minneapolis, you had that December contract down a penny and a half this morning at 8.94 1/4. We'll come back and talk more with Brian Hoops, this time about livestock when we come back. All right, we're back talking with Brian Hoops. Now we're going to talk a little livestock market action. And first of all, let's take a look at where we closed yesterday here, Brian, and see where we now stand in the greater scheme of things. Now, live cattle had October down 12 cents yesterday at 143.65. Not really any real big shakes there. The thing that has gotten my attention here over the last few days, though, is if you look at a longer-term daily chart, it looks to me like the October live cattle have broken that long-term uptrend, and that can be a little bit of a concern for cattle traders and producers out there. Feeder cattle, now they were higher yesterday. October was up $1.07 at 185.